a sequence of poems of mine about the city of Salem. The poem is called Atlantic Blues. It's from a long sequence called Montage of Brick and Water. And so now we're going to play, we're going to do a gunquit, and just do the first two sections. It's kind of hard to get a sense of this whole poem because, as Phil said, it goes on for a while, and it is kind of triggered by the loss of someone who is close to me, my uncle, but it kind of circles outward into sort of thoughts about ambition and fame and mortality and family and poetry. I don't know. I should have stopped probably sooner than that, but I just kept throwing in themes. So I think that this gives you a little bit, and I think also the sense of time passing is a theme in this as well. So this will just give you a little bit of a sense of it and sort of how we put the music and words together. It's probably worth saying that even though we're going to do about 10 minutes of it, but it's a narrative poem, so I think you can hang with it. And also just a little bit about how he composed too. Really, Phil looked at my piece and I listened to some of his music, and much of the composing didn't involve putting together new music for this piece, although there's a little bit, but it involved us
50-50.
Yeah, a lot of it was taking things that he'd already done and coordinating it with the words and figuring out when the music should come in and when it should go out, and how we wanted it to play off the words. So that was a big part of the collaborative process.
I also when we recorded it, it was on an $85,000 9-foot Steinway. So this is a little toy. So you kind of have to imagine this enormous instrument. We did it at Gordon College, but you use what you got. And okay.
And so we're going to just sort of leave you hanging right in the middle of it.
Yeah. If you want to find out how it ends, you've got to buy the CD. All right.
So, a gunquit. There's a faint brownish stain on the pale green rug in our family room, half under the futon sofa. I noticed it today while I was sharing gossip about work with Eileen, someone drunk at a Christmas party. And I looked down and forgot what I'd been saying. The memory unfolding of my Uncle John, spilling his coffee when he came to visit a month after the diagnosis. How he'd felt so bad and how he confessed he couldn't help but wonder whether it was the tumor that made him clumsy. Exchanging glances with his wife, Kathy, that were tinged with fear. And later, when we went bowling and John could barely finish a string. And that evening when they came to watch my son's Little League game, and it poured in the first inning, and we all stood under an oak, though we knew it would not let up, and the game would be canceled, and lightning forked the sky. And I confess, just after the memory, the stain evoked the thought, this should go in the poem. And I looked harder at it, like Bishop looks hard in her poems. For her, it leads to clarity, epiphanies. But for me, the spot became less defined. The darker outline blurring with the green until it was as nebulous as the ocean, green tinged with brown. The shades of lamplight and sunlight layering what had been there and what still may have been there. A fish could have leapt from that carpet at that moment, and I turned my eyes blankly to Eileen as she sat on the futon, waiting for my story's next word. The night before my Uncle John died, I read my poems to 60 people in Ogunquit, Maine, where he had liked to vacation. I was one of 9 poets, and I read well, didn't gab nervously between poems, diluting their effect. My mother gushed that it was the best reading she'd ever seen me give. I sold some copies of my basketball book, and an artist from Cambridge gave me his email. Another poet, a few years younger than me, told me I had the best stuff of all the poets. And I drank it up. How can one not? And on the late night ride home, I recited the 8 poems that I'd read several times as I zipped past the Moose Crossing signs down through New Hampshire, impressing myself with their simple, unadorned precision. My father read his poems that night too. He's the one who got me the gig. He was a little tired, having visited his brother earlier that weekend. John was not speaking by then, just resting, eyes closed, breathing deeply and laboriously. My father read well enough, but my mother said it wasn't his best. She'd spent the hour before the reading trying to convince him, without actually telling him, to put on different socks and his yellow shirt, rather than the blue one with the mark on the shoulder. And he groused and resisted, but eventually did what she pushed for, and I, who had driven up a little early, listened anxiously to their exchange, and felt sorry for my father, whose only brother was so near death. It was Labor Day. Even with the haggling, we were ready too soon, and so, to escape the hotel, we drove to the ocean and walked a path along the rocky coast, the marginal way. It wasn't quite sunset. Surfers rode curled waves below us, and across the river's mouth, a few couples walked Ogunquit Beach. On another day, one of those couples might have been John and Kathy, treading across the heavy sand before the brain tumor, when there was no urgency, no operations or steroids that swelled the face and gradually weakened the body, no rented vans with wheelchair lifts, no seizures, no vows to live until his grandson's first Little League game. His grandson, 8 months old the day he died. I might have thought of John and Kathy there, but I can't be always thinking of others and misfortune and the brute fact of time, though I was thinking of the brute fact of